Rain tapped softly against the windows of the Carson family home, the kind of night where the world felt wrapped in silence. Everyone in the neighborhood was asleep except one. It was exactly 12:03 a.m. A faint knock echoed through the hallway. Tap, tap, then again louder. Tap, tap, tap. Inside, 14-year-old Emily Carson crept down the stairs, her bare feet silent against the cold wooden steps. She peeked through the peephole. Nothing. Just darkness. She turned to go back upstairs, but the knock came again. This time, louder. More urgent. She hesitated. Then the door slowly creaked open, by itself. No one would see the Carson family again after that night. The next morning, neighbors noticed something strange. The Carsons' front door was ajar. Their car still in the driveway. But no one answered when the mailman rang the bell. By noon, a friend of the family, Mr. Delaney, walked in, calling out, "Hello, Emily." Mr. Carson. Silence. Then he saw it. 2 mugs of untouched hot chocolate on the table. A board game mid-play in the living room. And a single phone buzzing endlessly on the floor, its screen cracked, covered in faint fingerprints. There were no signs of struggle. No broken windows. No signs of forced entry. No blood. Just a lingering eeriness. Like the house itself was holding its breath. He backed out slowly, his hands trembling as he called the police. Within 20 minutes of Mr. Delaney's call, 2 patrol cars pulled up in front of the Carson home. Officer Linda Ross was the first to step in. A 12-year veteran with a sharp eye and a gut instinct she trusted more than any report. As she walked through the house, she could feel that unnatural stillness. She scanned the scene. Dinner plates still full of untouched lasagna. A toy train frozen mid-track on the hallway floor. A family photo on the wall, smiling faces, now haunting. The house was too perfect. No signs of departure. No packed bags, not even a note. It was as if the family had vanished mid-conversation. Within hours, the search escalated. Police questioned neighbors, family, and even delivery drivers. A neighbor reported hearing a low humming sound around midnight. Another swore she saw a black van parked briefly down the road, engine running, lights off. Detectives combed through security cameras. Most had nothing. But one grainy clip from 3 streets away showed blurry silhouettes walking under the street lamp, 3 figures, then a sudden fourth, but only 3 shadows. What did that mean? By nightfall, helicopters were in the sky. K-9 units sniffed through nearby woods. And the local news ran the headline: Carson family mystery deepens, no clues, no witnesses. But back inside the home in the youngest daughter's closet, a small clue had gone unnoticed. A single word, written in chalk on the wall. Help. The next morning, forensic teams arrived with advanced gear. They dusted for fingerprints, collected fibers, and scanned every inch of the Carson home. One officer, Detective Marla Kent, paused by the children's bedroom. She stepped in pastel walls, stuffed animals arranged in a perfect row on the bed, as if someone had planned to return. But something felt off. She opened the closet slowly, and that's when she saw it. Scrawled in faint white chalk on the inside wall, almost like it had been written by a child's trembling hand, was one word: help. Marla froze. She crouched closer, scanning the wall. Below it, almost invisible to the naked eye, were tiny drag marks, as if something heavy had been pulled into the closet, not out. She called for backup. Within minutes, they discovered something behind the wall, a false panel. It led to a narrow crawl space, dark, suffocating, and cold. Inside, officers found a tiny red shoe, dusty but clearly new. The same kind the youngest daughter, Lily, was seen wearing in recent photos. But still no blood, no signs of struggle, no bodies. Just pieces of their lives. Outside, media vans lined the streets. Crowds gathered, murmuring theories: kidnapping, revenge, something darker. A retired local nurse came forward with a strange memory. 2 nights earlier, she said, she saw a woman in a white dress standing across the Carson home at midnight. Silent, still. She thought it was someone attending a late vigil or just taking a walk. But now she wasn't so sure. Because when she looked at the woman's face, there were no eyes. She whispered. Was this just fear playing tricks on people's minds? Or was there something deeper, something unnatural, tangled in this family's disappearance? Hours after the red shoe was found in the crawl space, Detective Marla Kent reviewed the home's internal security footage again, not just from the day the family vanished, but the night before. The footage had been glitchy, filled with skips and blackouts. Most officers thought it was tampered with. But this time, Marla noticed something no one else had. Exactly at 3:12 a.m., the cameras caught a brief flicker just a second or two from the hallway upstairs. She zoomed in. There, partially obscured by shadows, stood a figure. Not a family member. A tall man dressed in what looked like a long coat wearing a mask. Not a ski mask. Not a clown. But a mask carved to resemble a smiling human face. Plastic. Pale. Expression fixed. The figure stood motionless outside the children's bedroom. And then frame by frame it slowly turned to look at the camera, as if it knew someone would one day be watching. Then static. That's when it hit Marla. The cameras didn't glitch on their own. They were manually looped, hacked from within. Whoever did this wasn't just hiding their tracks. They wanted to tease the truth. And now, it was personal. That same evening, a local woman came forward with another tip. She said her daughter had been playing with someone named Smiley on an app a week earlier. A man who told her stories, asked strange questions about families, and sent her a blurry photo of a house. The Carson house. The woman thought it was some sick prank. But now she wasn't so sure. Marla traced the IP of the last message sent by Smiley. The signal. It was pinging from an abandoned church 6 miles outside town. They sent a team immediately. What they found there: scattered photos, child's drawings of Smiley, and a wall covered in dozens of family pictures will change the case forever. The abandoned church was falling apart, roof sagging, ivy choking its windows, and stained glass shattered long ago. But as the officers entered with flashlights raised, they immediately knew this place had been used recently. The air was heavy with dust and something else. Rot. In the old prayer room, the walls were covered in hundreds of photographs. Not just of the Carson family, but of other families, most of them local, some missing, some never reported missing. Pinned with rusty nails. Doodles in red marker. Circles drawn around faces. Notes like, "Too noisy," or, "Already watched." And in the center of the room, a chair facing an altar. A projector still warm. And a tape labeled, Lesson 9, Family Silence. Detective Marla Kent ordered the team to plug in the projector. What they saw was hard to explain. A grainy, black and white film played, narrated by a soothing, mechanical voice, like something out of an old educational video. A quiet home is a perfect home. A family that obeys stays. If they scream, the angels can't hear them. But I can. It showed surveillance clips, families sitting at dinner, going to sleep, kids playing, all unaware they were being watched. Then static. Then nothing. At the end of the reel, a final image burned into the screen. A drawing of the Carson family. But instead of faces, each member had a single red eye scribbled over their heads. And underneath it, a chilling handwritten phrase. "He sees them all." Before the team could process what they'd just seen, a scream echoed from the basement below. An officer had discovered a crawl space, like the one at the Carson home, and inside it was a small, soundproofed room. With shackles. With blood stains. With toys. And one word carved into the floorboards. Return. Detective Kent knew now that this wasn't an isolated case. The Carsons weren't the first. And unless they acted fast, they wouldn't be the last. As dawn broke and backup arrived, the church was sealed off as a major crime scene. Forensics began sweeping the building while Detective Kent stayed locked into the one place that still didn't make sense: the pastor's old office. It had been left untouched. Dust thick on the desk. A cracked photograph of a family on the wall: the pastor, his wife, and a little girl with a ribbon in her hair. A Bible left open on a single verse. The eye is the lamp of the body. But something felt off. Kent tapped on the back wall behind the bookshelf. Hollow. She called for help. Together, they pried it open and found a narrow space behind the wall. Inside, a metal box, locked tight, but brittle with age. Inside the box was a leather-bound journal, pages yellowed and worn, belonging to Pastor Elijah Cross. And what it contained would change everything. It started normal reflections on sermons, struggles with faith, but a few entries in, the tone shifted. Darker. Obsessed. Frantic. "The eye came to me in a dream again. Told me to prepare the quiet ones, those with still hearts and silent souls. The Carsons fit perfectly. He's watching them. He likes them. I must keep them pure. Noise brings chaos. Screams are curses. Families must be silent to be saved. The most disturbing entry was dated just 2 days before the Carsons vanished. They're ready now. Their dinner will be warm. Their silence will echo forever. He sees, and he's pleased. The pastor had been missing for over a decade. Everyone assumed he fled the town after a scandal nothing ever proven. But this journal made one thing clear. He didn't leave. He went underground. And he took the eye whatever that was with him. But the last page that was the worst. Scrawled in large, shaky letters. I was wrong. It's not me he wanted. It's all of us. It's watching even now. Detective Kent closed the journal slowly, her hands trembling. This wasn't just about a missing family anymore. This was about a pattern. And the eye-weather man, myth, or something in between wasn't finished. Not yet. The town had barely started whispering about the case again when a new lead emerged, or rather, returned. At 3:13 a.m., a call came into the station from the outskirts of Crestwood. A woman's voice, shaky, panicked. She said, "It's back. I can feel it." The eye, it spoke to me again. The name, Margaret Doyle, an old name in town records, someone who'd once accused Pastor Elijah Cross of running rituals in the woods behind the church. Her claims were dismissed, buried under disbelief and local pressure. She'd vanished years ago, diagnosed with psychosis and institutionalized. Now she was back, older, frailer, but eerily lucid. Detective Kent drove out to meet her, half expecting a ghost. What she found was worse. Margaret lived in a rotting trailer in the woods, walls covered in pages torn from the Bible and scribbled messages. Silence is safety. The eye watches from the shadows. They are never really gone. She sat Kent down and opened a rusted tin box. Inside, Polaroids, old, faded. Some of them showed Pastor Elijah in robes, standing in front of strange symbols painted on trees. Others showed families, eyes blacked out with ink. And one photo, the most haunting, showed the Carson family. All 5 of them, standing stiffly. Wearing white, smiles frozen, eyes hollow. Margaret whispered. He called them the still ones. Said they were the perfect offering. He didn't kill them. He converted them. Kent blinked. Converted them to what? Margaret's answer. To nothing. That's the goal. No fear. No noise. Just stillness. Emptiness. That's when the eye takes you. Before Kent could ask more, Margaret stood abruptly, eyes wide. It's here. It never left. The journal was just bait. He wants you next. Then she collapsed. When medics arrived, Margaret was unconscious and wouldn't wake up for 72 hours. But what she left behind changed everything. Because behind one of her Bible-covered walls was a map, scratched in charcoal and string. And marked on it in red was the abandoned mine shaft 2 miles from the church. Next to it was one word. Home. Detective Kent stood before the old Crestwood mine. The entrance was overgrown with weeds and half covered in a rusted fence, but the lock had been recently broken. Someone had been inside. She took a deep breath and stepped into the tunnel, flashlight in hand, gun drawn. The air was thick, still. Even the sound of her footsteps felt muted, swallowed by the darkness. It didn't take long before she noticed it. Symbols, carved into the tunnel walls. The same ones from Margaret's photos, concentric circles, crude eyes, and tally marks scratched violently into the stone. One wall read, "The still ones live." Another simply said, "Return what was promised." Kent pressed on. 20 minutes in, the flashlight flickered. Then, somewhere in the pitch dark ahead, a voice. Detective Kent. She froze. It wasn't echoing. It wasn't distant. It was right behind her. She spun, no one there. Just the tunnel, stretching endlessly back into the black. Then the flashlight cut out completely. Panic hit her chest, but she kept moving. The walls began to pulse with faint, reddish glow coming from deeper in the mine. She followed it. What she found at the end wasn't a chamber. It was a shrine. Torches lit a stone room crudely carved into the rock. At the center, a stone altar. Surrounding it, photographs of missing families, local children, church members. And right there, taped above the altar, was a picture of the Carson family, but this one was different. Their eyes were burned out literally. Holes had been punched through. And behind them stood a figure in robes. Pastor Elijah Cross, smiling. Kent stepped forward, heart pounding. And then, she saw something new. On the altar sat a tape recorder, already clicked into play. She pressed it. Elijah's voice came through calm, eerie, soft. To those who seek the truth know this. I didn't make them disappear. I helped them escape. They chose to vanish. They chose silence. Because the eye doesn't kill. It frees. And now it's your turn. Suddenly, the torch flames all snapped out. Complete blackness. And in the dark a whisper directly in Kent's ear. You were chosen the day you looked. Detective Kent burst out of the Crestwood mine gasping for air, covered in dust and sweat. But what haunted her more than what she saw in that tunnel, was what she heard. You were chosen. That voice wasn't just in her ear. It was in her head, and it hadn't left since she got out. Back at the station, she locked herself in the evidence room and replayed the recorder she'd taken from the altar. But the tape was blank now. No Elijah Cross. No confession. Just static. She rewound. Fast-forwarded. Nothing. But then something caught her eye. Inside the evidence bag, beneath the recorder, was a small SD card. No label. Just a piece of red tape across it, the same red used in the symbols down in the mine. She loaded the card into her computer. There was only one file. A video. Time-stamped 2 days before the Carsons vanished. The footage started with a handheld camera, shaky, facing Pastor Elijah. He looked younger, more energized but deeply unstable. His eyes darted, as if constantly looking just off camera. This is a record of truth, he said. They won't let us speak. But if you're seeing this, it means the eye has allowed it. The camera turned, and behind him was the Carson family standing in a circle, holding hands, eyes closed. A low humming echoed through the frame. Then, their bodies began to blur. Not like camera error but like reality itself was warping around them. One by one, they began to vanish. Slowly, silently, no screams, no struggle, just gone. And Elijah turned to the camera and whispered, "Do you see now?"